Jyat education ne kahassin lo. Oh ei ja I ho. The nenihit niniki han so shi ei ja ho. Ni ha han da hollo.
Hosky joined the Law Center initially as the director of administration to help take care of some of the administrative tasks. After getting to know him, I realized that he had a deep understanding of the needs facing people with disabilities. He and I were actually driving somewhere, and we were talking about the situation facing many Navajos with disabilities. I can't remember how it came up, but he started telling me the story of Don Boy, and it struck me, especially as an Anglo and somebody who's not a member of the Navajo community, it just struck me as just the perfect expression of what we here at the Law Center are trying to achieve as far as making sure that individuals are safe and respected and receive the supports and services that they need.
This story, a traditional Navajo story, is about early Don Boy. These stories are not, it's not mine, it belongs to the people, and it's for teaching. This community of people, they had children with disabilities. Some of them were blind, visually impaired, some of them had deafness, some of them had cognitive disabilities, developmental disabilities of various kinds. The thought process of the parents, the grandparents, or the siblings of these children with disabilities began to evolve and change. And they came to the point where they were saying that because of my child with a disability, I can't really go anywhere. I can't enjoy myself. I always have to worry about my child, or who's going to take care of my child. Or if I take my child with a disability with me, then I can't enjoy myself the way I want to. And they decided, I guess among themselves, that they would put him at a place where there's a family living in the Hogan, and they would build a round structure like where they would put trees into the ground in a round circle, like a shade house, like a traditional shade house, with the opening towards the east direction. The children were put into this place. Then at certain times in the morning and the evening, they would leave food outside that place, and water and firewood. The children that were more able, they went out there and brought in the food, brought in the water and the wood to build a fire so they could be warm at night. But they said most of the time the food was just like scraps. It was just leftovers. But they still just took that in and fed each other and were taking care of each other. And nobody really went over there inside that dwelling to see how they're doing. They noticed that there was a young man, like a teenager, over there at that place where the children were. And he was really taking care of these children. And when they put the food out and the water and the wood, he would go out there and gather all that for them and take it in. And then he would feed them. If the food needed to be warmed up, he would be warming it up, giving them water, fixing their bedding, and keeping them warm, and playing with them, and comforting some of them that were crying. But they just noticed that there was a young man over there. Nobody really said, who is he, where is he from, what's he doing there? Nobody even questioned them. One morning, this young man came out with these children, and he was helping them along. The ones that couldn't walk, he was carrying them a distance, then coming back for another one, and they were headed in the east direction. And those others that could help themselves, they were helping others, and they were kind of going in a group. And away to the east direction. And then they went over the hill. And then the people noticed that, but they didn't say anything. The evening time, these children were coming back again. And they were helping one another like that again. This little boy was really helping them along. And if one of them would step on a sticker or something, he would pull it out of their feet, and he would be comforting them. And then they would just take time out and sit there for a while. But when they came from that east direction, they noticed that they were covered with white clay, their clothes and their face, like they've been playing in the mud. And they came back and they went back into that dwelling. Second morning, they came out again, and the same thing again, helping them, and they were helping each other. But this time they went in the south direction, and they went over the hill again. The evening time, they started back again. They were coming back, and this time they were covered with blue mud. The third day they came out, and where this Hogan is, they went on the south side of that Hogan, and they went west, and they went over the hill again. Same thing in the evening time, they came back, start coming back over the hill, and this time they were covered in yellow mud, and they were playing in that clay, I guess, and they went back into the dwelling. And then the fourth day they came out again, and they went around clockwise around the Hogan, and they started doing the same thing where they were helping one another, going into the north direction this time. And then these people started to think, and they said, one of them said, I wonder what those children are doing. First day they went east, second day they went south, third day they went west. Now they're going north. I wonder what they're doing. So they told one of the men, he should go follow those children, see what they're doing. So he went after them, started following them, hiding behind the rocks and behind the trees and the brush so that those children wouldn't see him. And these children were traveling along. And then they came to a place where there was a big pond of water. And then they sat down by that pond of water, and they were playing in the water, and they were playing in the mud. And that little boy was playing with them. They were just having a good time with themselves. And they were playing in the mud and making little figures and things like that. And then that man, he was looking around. He looked at those children, and he looked way across the pond of water. There was like a grove of trees. And then in the trees, he noticed some beings. I guess you would say spiritual beings. And there was 4 of them. And these 4 beings came across that pond. They floated, almost like floating across. And they went over there to where those children were. And they said these 4 beings that had feathers sticking out of their head. And they were dressed really nice with buckskin and moccasins and real nice jewelry. And they sat down by these children. These children were even scared of them. They just sat down with them and started playing with them. And then they went over to this little boy, and they was taking care of these children. They hugged them and they thanked them. And then that man was hiding behind the tree. Noticed again, he looked up, and then there was a cloud coming down. And this cloud came across that pond again and went over there to where those children were playing. And then these spiritual beings picked up each one of these children and put them on that cloud. And then they got on that cloud. And then that cloud rose way up into the sky. But when it was rising, it was a real strong kind of energy came off of that. And it knocked this man over, took his breath away. And he was laying there and thinking, what happened? Who were those beings? I guess he was thinking. And he got up and he looked way up there, and he saw them disappear. And he just sat there thinking about it, And he's never seen anything like that. So he gathered his composure, and he got up and he ran back to that Hogan. Then he told the people that were there, he said, our children are gone. He said, somebody took them. He said, they're not here anymore. And all the people, word got around real fast, and all the people started going to that place where the children were playing along that pond of water. And so when they got over there, then they looked on the ground, and there was really perfectly made pipes that they use in ceremonies, perfectly made bowls that they put medicine herbs in. And then there was little figures of horses and sheep that we put in our corn pollen pouches. And they said they were perfectly made. And these children had left them behind as gifts to the community to use, to pray with, and use in the ceremonies. And these mothers and fathers and grandmas and grandfathers, they were picking them up and they were crying. And they said, why did we do that to them? And so they decided they would get a crystal gazer to find out what happened to these children. So they brought in a crystal gazer that night. And that crystal gazer told them, he said, you did this to yourselves because you didn't want these children. You didn't want to care for them. That you thought that they were a bother to you. And you're the ones that did this. So the holy people took them back, and you're not going to see them again. And early in the morning, he said, you're going to hear a bird. And this bird is going to be that young man. And that young man is Early Dawn Boy. He's the one that was taking care of these children. And so sure enough, early in the morning, there was a bird chirping outside. So they went out there and they looked around and they went in that dwelling where they heard the bird chirping. So they went into that dwelling, and then where those kids stayed. They looked around, there was no bird. And when they got in that dwelling, that sound of that bird came from all four directions, all the way around them, on top of them, and below them. There was not one direction that they could see that where that bird was making that noise from. And so they say that, Navajo teaching is that sometimes early in the morning you hear a bird chirping at your house. They said that's Early Dawn Boy. That's the holy people. And he's there to remind you that you should have compassion for all people. You should have compassion for those with disabilities. You should have compassion for the unfortunate. That you should learn how to share what you have with other people. And that's a reminder when you hear that bird singing early in the morning. And listen to that bird and think about how you're going to become a better person and have compassion and care for others and change of attitude, taking self-inventory, things like that, you see.
In the Anglo community in the Western world, it took a long time to get there. The attitude that many of us in the dominant society have toward people with disabilities really just started in the 70s. And to know that the Navajo community had this goal and this vision eons before, I think is just a really powerful expression of Navajo tradition. And I think that that's something, again, that Hosky really brings to the Law Center, is his understanding of the role of tradition, his understanding of the language, and his contribution to the Law Center is immense.
Nữ happy Leonard talaswema yan nữ machiwa nữ yang kichokingak sepalangak nữ pefkita.
I've known Leonard Teleswima for, 20 years. Leonard Teleswima and his wife, Rhonda, were really some key individuals within the Hopi community who started advocating for the rights of individuals with disabilities in that community.
Now, there's a story about a cross-legged kachina, and his name is Huhua, and He comes during certain dances. He walks in a real difficult way because he doesn't walk regular like other human beings. His legs are crossed. His left leg is on the right side, his right leg is behind him. So he kind of trots along like, but he's able to walk. Hopis kind of look at this person as an individual with disabilities, But, not only does maybe he has a physical disability, but he has other qualities that he can share with, the people that he comes to, the kachinas that he comes to. He's a real good dancer and he's a composer of songs. He's a storyteller by his actions and his motions by his hands. He's a humorous person. He makes people laugh. He can be able to talk Hopi. He has a good heart, always being positive, even though with his disability, he's always a positive person. So despite his disabilities, he is able to function and to teach others, of all the things that he came to teach about. And for us to be good to each others and to help each others and to be kind and respectful to each others. That's his teachings. And there's certain kachinas that can't walk. So what happens? How did they get around? Okay. Other kachinas, they have them on their backs, carrying them around. They want to be a part of a ceremony, so they don't discriminate. They bring them with them. And if we have to carry you to the ceremony, we're going to. And that's how they do that.
The Native American Disability Law Center was created by the Protection and Advocacy System in 1994. The basic philosophy that we here at the Law Center have is that individuals with disabilities want the same thing that we all want. We want meaningful work, meaningful opportunities to participate in our community, a safe place to live, relationships. We really feel strongly that in order to enforce your rights, you need to understand them first. Work and employment is just such a big part of maintaining that independence and achieving that sort of self-realization that we all strive for as adults. I think we still have a lot of work to do, and I think that we've got a great group of people doing it.